You're now watching the Mike Missanelli podcast on the BetRivers Network.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Missanelli podcast. It's Monday. It is December 18th. This is what I would describe as an emergency podcast. We're going to wait for the game on Monday night as the Eagles are in Seattle to take on the Seahawks, but some calamity in the Eagles' ranks here that we need to discuss as we go into this game. And the calamity is double-faced. We were already dealing with the situation with Jalen Hurts, the starting quarterback, maybe not being available for tonight's game because of illness. You read all the stories that he had to take a private plane to Seattle, that they didn't want to risk him going on the team plane, so he would get others sick. And they're playing against a team tonight that probably won't have their quarterback, so it'll be an interesting little matchup. I think Hurts is going to play. I don't think there's any doubt he's going to play. We'll get to that a little later. So let's discuss the calamity. Of course, the Mike Missanelli podcast is brought to us by BetRivers. And if you're placing a bet on this game tonight, I have no idea how it's going to go. All right. So it's -3, Eagles -3 going into Seattle. If Hurts plays, that may change right now. Maybe that's in limbo and we'll get to change the line. But anyway, this is podcast number 146. And we didn't expect to do 146 at this particular moment. So let's discuss why we're here. On Sunday, news breaks that the Eagles have changed it up on the defensive coordinator's chair. That Sean Desai, technically demoted, who will go upstairs and, be an eye in the sky for the new defensive coordinator, who is Matt Patricia, former longtime defensive coordinator with the Patriots. The last time he coached in the league was an offensive coach. He was kind of like a non-entity, and the Eagles brought him in as kind of a consultant. And maybe they brought him in as a guy who was going to sit in that chair, and they had a guy just in case decide it didn't work out. So it's peculiar timing, but it isn't peculiar timing. So let's look at how and why this was done. First of all, let me just say this. From what I know about these kind of situations, it is the owner who makes this call. Jeffrey Lurie may seem like an owner who's in the background, but guess what? He's not. And he forces a lot of moves on Howie Roseman when he is dissatisfied. He got embarrassed, the owner did, the last couple of weeks against premier teams in this league. Embarrassment on an owner's scalp weighs heavy. So I am quite positive that this was a Jeffrey Lurie call. All right, let's get Patricia in there. Now, there are two ways you can look at that. One is that this is a desperation move, but and it certainly is, but you have to counterbalance that desperation with the fact that they were not performing. Their numbers were abysmal. They looked lost on defense. Now, I think it's because their back seven stink. I think it's because they shirked the linebacker position for a really long time, and it caught up with them this year, and they got banged up at safety, and they underperformed at cornerback where they thought they'd be good, and they had to play some, as we call, chamades in there. They had to throw guys in, the young guys that aren't ready to play. And so that's what I think the problem on defense is. And teams' offensive coordinators were savvy enough to exploit what the Eagles did not have in the back seven. And we all know that if they're not getting to the quarterback, they're not a great defense. When they're getting to the quarterback, they're pretty good. When they're not getting to the quarterback, and they're not getting to the quarterback consistently because maybe they're worn down, maybe because they don't stop third down, they're on the field for a really long time on all these long drives. But anyway, whatever you believe, desperation versus the need to make some kind of change. And I think Jeffrey Lurie's in the background. Let's go. We got to change this up right now. I've had it. In a way, it's like Jeffrey is kind of like an Ed Snyder in disguise. He's back there. Ed Snyder was right out front. Lurie's in the back, but he's influencing things. So that's my opinion on this, that this was a Jeffrey Lurie move. Now, here's the second part of this. It's a totally safe time to do it. You're playing 4 inferior teams to you, including tonight with Seattle, and Seattle has a chance to win this game. They're better than the last 3 teams are going to play, the Giants twice and the Cardinals. And so the safe time to do it is where you can't get hurt. So Patricia comes in The defense undoubtedly is going to be a little better against inferior teams. And who looks like a genius? The people who put the wheels in motion. It's a safe time to do it. You can't lose. Now, it's not good for Desai, who gets put over the coals, but I don't really have any loyalties to Sean Desai. So we'll roll with this. And Matt Patricia has a helping hand in that he's playing these inferior teams. So there you go. And everybody at the end of this regular season will say, see, look at that team. They had the foresight to make the move. And look how it turns out. And to me, it's all horseshit. I got to be honest with you. But here we go. We're going to ride this whole thing to the end. Now, let's look at how it affects the playoffs. I don't think the Eagles can lose for the rest of the season. I know there are people that think that. I don't think they're going to lose. I don't think they're going to lose tonight. I think they're going to win out. And like I've been saying for the longest time, they're going to be the number 2 seed because we saw what the Cowboys did last night. They just gave it up. They can't play on the road. I've been saying for a long time the Cowboys are not a factor in the playoffs because they're going to be the 5th seed. They would have to play on the road against Tampa Bay for crying out loud. I don't even sure they can win that game, but even if they do, they get rolled by the 49ers in San Francisco. They just can't play on the road. You could just see that. Now, last night, to me, was like a come-down game. After they spilled their bucket against the Eagles, you knew they were going to have a letdown. I didn't think they were going to get trucked like that. So that tells me a little bit about that team. They're heartless on the road, and that's not the sign of a team that's going to survive in the playoffs. So I'm out with them. So here we are, back to the Eagles with the number 2 seed. Everybody's worried about whether they're going to drop a seed, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be firmly entrenched as the number 2 seed, and they're going to play the first home game against an inferior team. But that inferior team might now be the Rams. And the Rams on any given Sunday can score some points, and maybe the Rams can beat the Eagles. I don't think the Packers or the Vikings could have beaten the Eagles in the first round. The Rams is going to be a little tougher. The Eagles are still going to win that game, which puts them in the same position that I thought they'd be in the first place, having to beat Detroit at home. And if they do that, and I'm not sure they can do that because now Detroit is rolling again, then they have to go to San Francisco. Any way you slice it, I don't see the team going into the Super Bowl. So let's deal with the calamity part of this and bring in producer Darren. Darren, it's really a sign of desperation for the Eagles, but in a way, it makes sense. Your thoughts?
It's the right move. The timing is bizarre. I mean, if you remember, the seed was dropped earlier in the week. A story broke that Kevin Byard, and some of the defensive backs had gone to the defensive coaches and said, we'd like to scout ourselves this week. We do not want the scouting of the defensive coaches this week. We will handle it ourselves.
Yeah, he said that today that was taken out of context. So just for a clarifier. So go ahead.
Maybe it was, but when you factor in all the other things, I hate dysfunction. It does smell a little of dysfunction. I'm not saying this is a dysfunctional team right now, but these are not normal things that happen in an NFL season. This is not normal. Yes, they had to make a change. First of all, I don't know why Desai is still with the team. If you're going to make this move, number one, it's a business move. It's not personal. I know he's liked. He's not getting it done. You can't go back to him as the defensive coordinator.
Well, you know why you know why he's got a title. You know why he's got a 4-year contract, and they want him to quit.
What are they paying a defensive coordinator? $800,000.
It doesn't matter. It's money. They want him to. Obviously, they want him to quit because there's no place for him. That's what they're thinking. So they're not going to fire him and owe him for 3 more years of a contract. So go ahead, move on.
Again, I just think it's not good to have him still around, and it's nothing personal against him. When these types of decisions are made, it needs to be a clean cut. Sean, we appreciate everything you did. It's not working. We're going to go in another direction. We wish you the best. That's what's got to happen in these situations. It's weird that he's still around. And it's weird
for a 2-year contract, yes. For a 4-year contract, they want him to quit, which he will at the end of the season, but they don't want to give him free money. All right, so let's get back to the timing of this, because you're looking at this as something that can make the Eagles collapse, and that's what you've said to me. So explain why you think this is going to collapse. I just laid out the terrible schedule that they have left where Patricia can't fail against these bad teams.
Yeah.
So how are they going to collapse?
It's not okay. So here's why: the most poisonous thing that can happen to derail an NFL season is distraction. You can get distraction in training camp, in the middle of the season, or as the playoffs approach. But there is nothing that can derail an NFL season like distractions in the locker room.
What do you mean by derail?
The last 72 hours, everybody's in there talking about this other shit. But
define what you mean by derail, because it's easy to say derail, but when you have bad teams that you're going to play, how's it derail? Are you suggesting that they're going to lose more than one game here for the rest of the year?
They probably won't, but I will not be surprised, because when distractions happen, you lose focus. And when you lose focus, you can lose to anyone.
Yeah, anyone. You can't lose to dreadful teams like the Giants and Cardinals.
Maybe. You're probably right, but I'm just telling you, their mindset going into this game tonight is not healthy. Yes, they'll probably win the game. If Hurts plays, they'll win the game. If Mariota ends up going tonight,
Hurts is going to play. Hurts is not going to not play tonight.
And by the way, 40% of Hurts is better than 100%.
All right, so let's now. See, this is why I like to pin you down on stuff. You said you could derail. You think they'll win tonight, right? So it won't be derailed.
I think they'll probably win. I'm not
when does it derail?
It could any time, Mike. It could derail tonight. You're asking me to see into a crystal ball.
I'm just trying to be pragmatic about this. You like sometimes you like to blow the alarm horn when being pragmatic will overcome that. You're not like anybody else, any other fan out there that thinks that the world's going to collapse, the sky's going to fall. But if you think about it really hard, you don't believe that they'll lose tonight. Therefore, how could you possibly believe they would lose to the Giants or Cardinals?
I do think that they're probably going to lose one of these games. Yes, I do.
You
Mike.
Believe that even if they win tonight, they could lose one of their last three games?
They could. I have to see how they look. Yes, they absolutely could. And they could lose tonight. Are you confident about this game tonight?
They're going to win the game.
You know how good their wide receivers are, right? You do know
I get it. Listen, Geno Smith is probably not going to play, all right? Drew Lock's not going to beat him, all right? So the Eagles will win this game. And so the point after they win this game, and even if they don't, they're not going to lose any of the last three games, which would be an implosion. So we're back to the same spot. We're back to a team that we look into playoffs that we both agree can't get to the Super Bowl anyway. So what's the point of this? Where is this collapse coming from? They're going to do the same thing in the playoffs that we thought they were going to do.
I think the chances of Mike, I'm not confident anymore. I have no confidence in this team. When I see distractions, my confidence goes out the window.
You're sounding the fan alarm is what you're sounding.
Mike.
Now, I know, listen, I know it reeks of desperation.
It does.
But pragmatically speaking, they're not going to melt down because of this, because they can't possibly lose to the Giants or the Cardinals.
I hope you're right.
They're just not going to lose. I mean, come on, dude. You can't possibly think they're going to lose a game to those three crap teams.
Probably not. But one of those crap
teams.
All
right, so that brings us back to the playoffs, where they're the number 2 seed. Now, is that an implosion?
Not necessarily, no, but I'm not confident that they're going to get there, Mike. I don't even know that they're going to get the number 2. I got to see how this team looks tonight, man. I got to see how they look tonight. They better play better on defense, because if not, those Seattle receivers are going to eat. I don't care if it's me throwing the ball to them.
Listen, here's what I'm saying. Even if they lose tonight, they're still going to be the number 2 seed. Okay, the Cowboys or Lions are not going to pass them. So even if they lose tonight, because this is the best team they'll probably play by the end of the year, they're not going to lose to the Giants once and the Arizona Cardinals. I get where people are freaked out by this, and you're freaked out. My God, Sunday I'm getting texts from you. It was like Freak City where you were about this team.
This isn't normal. I want stoicism from this organization. And this is becoming a cycle.
Listen, the stoicism left for this team.
The most dysfunctional organization in the game.
We learned about this team. Like, take the controversy and put it in a box for the time being.
Okay.
What did we learn about this team over the last couple of weeks? That they're not as good as either of those two teams. So what the calamity that now you put in this situation doesn't change it one way or the other. That's my point, and I'm being pragmatic about it.
I agree that it was the right move, Mike. I'm just telling you, when I see distractions like this,
I don't know if it was the right move or not. It's certainly a move of panic because I guarantee you that Sean Desai, still as the defensive coordinator, wasn't going to lose to the Giants or the Cardinals. So it really doesn't matter. All this is now look at the now. And the now is, okay, they won 4 games with Patricia as the defensive coordinator. It had to be the right move. But not necessarily was the right move. It's just a move by an impatient owner.
You've been in a ton of NFL locker rooms, right? So have I. There's 2 types of teams. There's teams that are focused, and there's teams that are not focused. And when stuff like this happen, even the most focused teams can lose that focus, and that's my worry. That's all.
Not in this league, not this year, when the bad teams are as bad as I've ever seen them. So this any given Sunday thing does not work over the last 3 weeks of this season with the 3 teams they're going to play. So we're all going to ultimately come back to the same spot, which is the Eagles will be the 2nd seed. They might not even be good enough to get out of the 2nd round. That's it. So this season to me has become, okay, we didn't do enough to get into that big game, which leaves you with an offseason of questions and what they need to do. It doesn't change for me what happened on Sunday. It's just a desperation move by an impatient owner. And that's where we stand.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So we saw the weekend of football. The only thing that reached out to me was the Cowboys getting trucked, which takes the Cowboys out of any equation, which I thought about anyway. I knew they were going to lose one of these games they had coming up on the road. So they lost the one. They may lose another. That takes them out of the possibilities for the number 2 seed. And so they'll be in the 5th seed, trying to climb their way up where they have to play the 49ers in the 2nd round. So that's it, folks. Listen, I know you're a little wobbly right now with the Eagles team. And tonight is a game they could lose. I don't think they will. I think Hurts will play. I don't think there's any way he doesn't play because of illness. Injury is one thing. Illness, guys, strap it up. He's a tough guy. He's a warrior. He's going to play. I think the Eagles will be fine tonight, and I think they'll win the last 3 games. And it leaves them in the playoffs as the 2 seed. From that moment on, I got at least 1 win. I can't guarantee 2. So until we get to that point, we will have a special podcast for you tomorrow to break down what happens tonight in the game in Seattle, the Eagles at the Seahawks, with probably Drew Lock as the quarterback for the Seahawks. Come on, man. Please. It would be Mike Patricia. Mike Patricia could be the defensive coordinator tonight, and I'll beat Drew Lock. All right? For Darren, I'm Mike. Have a great rest of the day. Eagles win tonight, and they'll win out, and everybody will be calm as you go into the playoffs, hoping against hope. And then we'll discuss why your hope will be misguided at that particular time. This is the Mike Missanelli podcast. It is brought to you by BetRivers. Don't forget, special podcast tomorrow analyzing tonight's game. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. See you. Bye-bye.